Good morning. Today's lesson is going to be over Act 2, Scene 1 of Fences. So if you could turn to page 59, that's where we're going to start today. If you look at page 59, it opens with Corey outside at the tree trying to hit a ball with the bat. Okay, look at the way he's doing it. It's important to note this. He tries to mimic Troy, but his swing is awkward and less sure. Though this could just simply be, saying, oh, he's having a hard time hitting the ball, I could look at this in a different way. It could mean far more than that. It could suggest that Corey is trying to mimic his father's views and his actions toward life, but it just doesn't quite fit Corey. It just really illustrates that the two are very different people. We also have at this time Troy and Bono working on the fence at the beginning of this scene. I think it's significant to talk about the type of wood that they both believe should be used for the fence. According to Bono, he believes that using a soft pine wood for the fence would make more sense because you're just building the fence, it's not that big of a deal. But Troy believes that you ought to use hardwood because it's better for the outside. I could say that Bono believes in having a softer exterior as a person. It allows him to be more open and more vulnerable with others. But Troy wants these like solid, hard walls that people cannot access. Obviously what's really inside of him. So kind of looking beyond just a simple fence. We already know that he's been putting up this tough exterior with everyone so far in the play. Okay. We also have some discussion between Troy and Bono about why Rose is so determined to have a fence built in her yard. And this is what Troy says. He says, damn if I know either. What the hell is she keeping out with this? She ain't got nothing nobody want. Which I kind of find to be a little insulting. But Bono points out something that Troy fails to see. He says, some people build fences to keep people out, but other people build fences to keep people in. And Rose wants to hold on to you all, and she loves you. Why might she want to keep people in? She suspects probably that maybe Troy is strayed away from her, and this is a way to keep him in. Just maybe she's concerned with protecting her family because she does have that like maternal instinct. She wants to save maybe Troy from making mistakes and hurting the rest of them. It could be just, even with Corey, Corey's old enough, he's getting ready to get out into the world and experience a lot of pain and suffering probably. So anyway, that's most likely why Rose is so determined to have the fence built. Now, this is about the time that it's kind of like a nice little segue for Bono into the issue that he's been bringing up during, this entire play so far. And, this is Troy's affair with Alberta, okay? He kind of opens up with a lot of positives. I like to call it this compliment sandwich. He says, look, Troy, I've known you for a long time. I've always respected your choices in life, your marriage. You've taught me a lot. I've always admired the honesty that you have. And then he goes into, I don't believe what, Rose loves you. Rose loves you. I don't want to see anybody hurt, that sort of thing. So, even though he doesn't come right out and say it, the message is pretty clear that he doesn't want Troy to make a big mistake and hurt his wife, Rose. He doesn't want to see that family broken up because he believes that they have a good thing. He also points out that Troy has always said, he uses Troy's words, that people are in control and they're responsible for what they do. But again, Troy says a lot, but he doesn't always follow what he says. And Troy does admit that he struggled with what he says. This is where he actually kind of admits that he is guilty of an affair with someone else. So he says, yes, I've wrestled with it, but he still had a hard time like shaking this woman, ending the affair, I guess. Troy's always liked to think of himself as this honest person, but here he's failed because he's not honest with his wife or honest with himself. After Bono ends up leaving, this is when we have Rose coming in, and they have this discussion regarding Gabe, okay? Remember, Gabe is Troy's younger brother and is dealing with a lot of disability here. He was actually arrested for disturbing the peace at this point in time, and they have to appear in court to show cause as to why Gabe shouldn't be recommitted to a hospital. And Troy, his argument is that, he'll take care of Gabe, and he ends up just given the money to take Gabe home. However, notice that as soon as they get home, Gabe's off doing his own thing. He's not really keeping an eye out for his brother, just kind of lets him do whatever. Rose believes that Troy should go ahead and recommit his brother because that's where he's going to get the best care, but Troy's not willing to listen to that. He argues that Gabe doesn't deserve to be locked up, and after what he's done for his country, he deserves to be free and do as he pleases. So anyway, we can see a difference of beliefs there. He doesn't believe Gabe should go, but Rose does. Okay, it's also at this time that Troy brings up some big news to Rose. Okay, this was concerning what Troy and Bono were discussing earlier. So he takes this opportunity to tell his wife that he's about to become a father and has been involved with another woman. Obviously, we know that it's not Rose's, so he's gonna have a baby. And obviously the cat would be out of the bag soon. I think he kind of held off as long as he could till he couldn't anymore. So naturally, Rose is upset about this information and, says she's done everything that she possibly could to be a good wife to him and take care of him, and she doesn't deserve that, which we probably agree with her. He tries to reconcile with his wife, but she brings up this huge fence that now stands in the way of their relationship. This is on page 68. I kind of want to call it to attention some of her words here. It says, all of a sudden it's we. Where was we when you were down there rolling with that woman? Or, we should have come to an understanding before you started making a fool of yourself. You're a day late and a dollar short when it comes to an understanding with me. So, she's kind of saying for the longest time it's been all about Troy. There's never been a we, it's been a him. Okay, and we believe that, because we've talked about how a lot of stuff in the past few seasons have been about just Troy really doing what he wants to do, saying what he wants to say, and the attention's all on him. So anyway, that's what she says here. And then on page 69 and 70, we see Troy using another baseball metaphor to explain the choices that he's made in his life. So let's take a look at that. This is pretty big. I'm going to read it from my notes, but like I said, page 69 and 70 are where you see these things. He goes, but you're born with 2 strikes on you before you come to the plate. You got to guard it closely, always looking for that curveball on the outside corner. You can't afford to let none get past you. He's basically saying that you're born, probably, Troy as an African-American is born into this world with disadvantages. Life is already against you. You can't afford to make a single mistake. And there's the pressure of that. He says he's feeling that pressure, with everything lined up against him. And he says, what are you going to do about that? And his solution to things was this: I fooled them, Rose. I bunted. When I found you and Corey in a halfway decent job, I was safe. Nothing could touch me. So I don't know if you know anything about baseball, but bunting is a safe move in that sport. There is a pretty likely chance that you can make it to first base safely. Marrying Rose and settling down to a normal life was basically bunting for him. That was what was safe for Troy. So that's kind of one thing that he chose to, one course of action he had chosen to do with life's advantages. So then, when he bunted and he got to first base, he saw this gal, is what he said. She firmed up my backbone. He's referring to Alberta here. He says, I got to thinking that if I tried, I just might be able to steal second. Do you understand that after 18 years, I wanted to steal second? Stealing bases means taking a risk, to have a little bit more, to get a little further, to be, you're kind of being a little greedy there. You're living life a little more on the dangerous side. You could risk getting out in baseball. So for him, this is more exciting and thrilling for him to have this affair with Alberta. He feels that he was stuck on first base for that long. Doesn't that kind of sound familiar? I feel like when he was having that discussion about his own father, he said, well, he was trapped and he knew it. And so he stuck around and dealt with his 11 kids and working. And obviously things weren't great, but, that's what he did. So anyway, kind of like his dad there, it reflects his selfish and greedy nature, no concern for who he hurts in the process of stealing second. He talked about the fact that, life wasn't, his dad didn't treat him like he should have, but I guess at least he stuck around. Anyway, that's how he explains why he did what he did. Now, naturally, that hurts Rose, and she uses her own metaphor to describe her feelings related to Troy, okay? So she admits that, don't you think that I've been stuck, here also? That you're the only person that's experiencing that? She says, kind of essentially he's too selfish to notice that, she has dreams and she has hopes too. Troy's not the only person that has that stuff, those sort of things. But he never cares about that. So anyway, she said, wow, she would have loved to have run off and neglected her responsibilities. She stood by her husband. This is page 71. Here's the metaphor that I kind of brought up to you a bit ago. Or it's not 74, 71. She says, I took all my feelings, my wants, my needs, my dreams, I buried them inside of you. I planted a seed and I watched and I prayed over it. I planted myself inside of you and waited to bloom. And it didn't take me 18 years to find out that the soil was hard and rocky and it wasn't ever going to bloom. So the planting metaphor is her attempt to explain this, her attempt to lessen that sort of rocky and hard nature of Troy. She tries to do this with her own love and compassion, but she only finds that there's no way of doing that Troy is this hard and rocky and tough sort of person, and she can't break through this exterior that he's put up, this wall that he's established with everybody. And regardless of that, she continues to try to make her garden bloom in many other ways, such as caring and loving her son, Corey. Like Troy, she uses this kind of same term here. She says, I owe it to you to stand by you, even though he does have this rocky exterior, because after all, he is her husband, for better or for worse. Probably a lot of worse in her case, but she's not straying. So, things kind of get, going further down in this discussion, things get very physical with some of the characters. It starts off with Rose on page 71 saying that you always talk about what you give, because he's always like, oh, I give and everybody takes from me, whatever, and what you don't have to give. She says you talk about what you give and what you don't have to give, but you take too. You take and you don't even know nobody's